Sudevasutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Hari Om. Today we will commence with chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yogo. So Shraddha means faith, Traya means three types of faith, Vibhaga means the division or the distinction between the three different types of faith. So even what the title is telling us, even though we have faith in God, we have faith in scriptures, etc., yet our faith, F-A-I-T-H, can fall into three categories. Okay, we will understand in this chapter what are the three categories. So how is this chapter linked to the past chapter? At the end of chapter 16, the last two verses, 23 and 24, Krishna emphasized on the importance of every spiritual seeker to follow the authority of the scriptures as a guide to what is rightful conduct and what is wrongful conduct. So Sri Krishna cautioned us that anyone who disobeys the ordinance of the scriptures, he knows what's in the scriptures, but he disobeys the ordinance of the scriptures and acts under the influence of their own desires. What will he not attain? So in verse 23, he says, he will not attain spiritual progress. That is for sure. Second, he won't attain happiness. He will have material happiness, but he will never have the infinite spiritual happiness. And neither will he attain the infinite goal, that is moksha. So if you disobey the ordinance of the scriptures, go against everything the scriptures say, just follow your desires, there will be no success on the spiritual path. So here we can therefore classify all human beings into three categories. First category are those who are aware about the injunctions of the scriptures, but driven by their impure nature, by their desires, they violate all the teachings of the scriptures and they follow a lifestyle motivated by their selfish desires. What are these people known as? In the last chapter 16, Krishna said they are demoniacal in nature, they are asuras. They violate all the injunctions of the scriptures. They just follow their selfish desires, their greed, etc. So these are of demoniacal nature. That is the first category. Second category of people are aware of the scriptural injunctions. And not only are they aware, but they diligently follow the lifestyle that is prescribed by the scriptures. They take the guidance from the scriptures and they implement it in their lifestyle. So they are known as divine in nature. They are the Devi Sampat, they are the divine in nature. Now, I'm sure you will also think of the third category of people. Who are they? They are not aware of the scriptural teachings. They do not know what's in the scriptures. But these people, they follow the spiritual lifestyle as taught by their elders. So whatever their elders teach them, whatever they see other people doing, they go to temples, they see how people are praying, or their elderly people tell them this is the way to pray, this is the mantras to chant, these are the flowers you must offer. So they follow all the rituals and according to their ancestors, what they've been taught. Now, which category will they fall in? Divine or demonic? Huh? Divine or demonic? So now there's a third category of people here. It's not that they don't fall into divine category, but this is the question that Arjuna raises. And most of us will fall in this category because we do pray. We have belief We do have belief in God. We have belief in the efficacy of our prayers. But are we doing the right thing? Are we offering the right flowers? Are we chanting the mantras the right way? Are we following all the rituals in the right way? We do not know. But we have faith. Okay. So uh, now, why is it important for us to know whether we fall in the divine or demoniacal category? Because Krishna had also mentioned in chapter 16 that divine tendencies will lead to liberation and demoniacal tendencies will lead to bondage, continuous rebirth. Okay. So now this question is very important for us to understand because most of us fall in this category. Okay. So in chapter 17, the Lord will answer Arjuna's question. Arjuna raises a question in verse 1 of chapter 17. Krishna will answer from verses onwards, 2 onwards, and he will tell us about 4 different practices. So, what are the 4 practices? Number 1 is called ahara, which means the food that we eat, the food that we are attracted to. So, are we sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? It can be determined by the type of foods we are attracted to, what type of foods we eat. Number 1. Number 2 is yajna, sacrifices, rituals. How you perform rituals. There is also the motive of how you perform rituals. Third is tapaha, austerities. How do we practice austerities? Also, there are 3 types: sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. And finally, when we give charity, also dhanam, there are 3 different ways how to give charity. So, obviously, if we follow the sattvic lifestyle, we are more divine. If we follow the rajasic and tamasic lifestyle, we are more demoniac in nature. Okay. So, now let us look at chapter 17 with this understanding, with this background. The first verse which Arjuna asked this question. So, what does Arjuna say? He asks Lord Krishna, he says, "O Krishna, ye utsrijya," ye meaning those who, utsrijya means those who ignore, those who don't follow. What they don't follow? Shastra Vidim, the scriptural injunctions. Why they don't follow? Not because they know and they purposely don't follow, but because they are not aware. Maybe sometimes people who stay in remote areas, they don't have this scriptural knowledge, or people don't have access, or people don't understand the scriptures are written in Sanskrit. They have nobody to interpret it for them. So, but he says they do worship. They follow, they worship the deity, they offer the flowers, they chant the mantras, but they, with what? He says, yajante, they perform all kinds of worship. It's not that they don't worship. They do not know what's in the scriptures. They perform their worship, yajante, and very important, anvita shraddha. Anvita means they are endowed with faith, shraddha. So they are doing it out of faith. They have faith in God, they have faith in the prayers they are doing, they have faith in all these things. Okay. So, which category do they fall in? Okay. And then he says, "Oh Krishna, what is the state of their devotion?" He wants to know. Is it sattvic? Is it rajasic? Or is it tamasic? What is the nature of their devotion? So again, what type of person is this? They don't have knowledge of the scriptures, but they offer prayers and rituals with full faith, with full shraddha. So are they sattvic, are they rajasic, or are they tamasic? Now, Bhagwan answers from verse 2 onwards. Okay. And we, all the prayers that we perform, whatever prayers we perform, are they in accordance to the scriptures? So what is the nature of our faith? Okay. So this is what Bhagwan replies in verse number 2. He says, Saha Shraddha The faith of a person, dehinam means a human being, okay? So, is based on swabhavaja. Now, this word swabhavaja is very interesting. Krishna is saying, if you do not know what's in the scriptures, how to perform the prayers according to scriptures, but with faith you perform, what is it that is driving your faith? It is your swabhava. What is swabhava? Swabhava means it is your own nature. How you have been brought up, to what you've been exposed with, to what you've read. So all this swabhava, ja means it is born out of your own characteristic or nature. Okay, ja. So what is your nature? Your nature is nothing but a product of your past actions. Whatever actions you've been performing, whatever experiences you've been having, they have left a deep impression in you. So, supposing you go to a particular temple, your parents take you to this temple and you pray, and you find that your prayers are answered. So, what happens then? You have more faith in that deity, you have more faith in that prayers and rituals. Whether you're doing things rightly or wrongly, you do not know, but with faith you pray. So, Krishna says, your faith is now determined by your own nature. And our nature, we have been told, Bhavati is Trivida. Our nature is of threefolds. Okay. What are the threefold nature? Basically, it is Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. It is determined by our Gunas. So, if our Gunas are Sattvic, we will pray accordingly. If our Gunas are Rajasic, we will pray in a different way. Okay. Now, understand one thing. Our lifestyle has been conditioned by the Gunas, but we are not a slave of the Gunas. We can change. According to our lifestyle, we can change the Gunas also. Okay. So, what is called as Purushartha? I'm sure how many of you have heard of Purushartha? You know what is Purushartha? Purushartha is free will. That has been, we have all human beings have been blessed with this Purushartha. So it means that we can change if we want to change. Okay. So now Krishna says, Shrunu, listen to me carefully while I explain to you what are the three types of faith. So, how we can also determine whether our faith is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. Okay. So, now from verse 3 onwards up to verse 22, Krishna will speak about the three types of faith Shraddha, Traya, Vibhaga. So, what does Krishna say in verse number 3? He says, Sarvasya, every human being, okay, who has no what we call exposure to scriptural knowledge. He says their shraddha, their faith is bhavati, is formed or arises out of anurupa, according to what? Now, if you see the word sattva here, okay, you see the word sattva, sattva anurupa, okay? This word sattva does not mean sattvic, okay? What does this word sattva mean? Krishna is saying that all beings, their faith is based on the sattva anurupa. Now, what does this word sattva means? This word sattva refers to the internal equipment. What is our internal equipment? The mind. It refers to our mind. Why does it refer to our mind? Because every action that we do is controlled or guided by the mind. What is the nature of your mind will be the nature of your actions. So, mind here, when we talk about mind, is not the brain. Okay, don't mistake it for the brain. Here in our scriptures, it is mentioned that your mind has got four components, four aspects are in your mind. These four components of your mind are influencing your actions. So, what are the four components? One is called manas, the other is called buddhi, the third is called ahamkara, and the fourth is called chitta. Okay, we'll look at all the four. All these four are influencing our decisions and how to perform actions. So, what is manaha? What is manas? Manas is our emotional mind that gives in to likes and dislikes. So I do what I feel like doing. I don't do what I don't, which I find brings me no happiness. Now, if you are giving charity, are you following your manas? When you give some charity, are you following your manas, your emotional mind? To a point, yes. But if your emotional mind says, or let me put it another way, if you're asked to go and do seva somewhere, get up early in the morning, 7 o'clock, go and do seva somewhere, and you go, are you following your manas? Are you following your emotional mind? No, right? Because your mind will say, your emotional mind will say, what is the benefit? Why should I get up early in the morning, spoil my sleep, drive all the way there and do seva? Right? So manas is very emotional. It follows likes and dislikes. But there is something else that guides our actions, that is called the buddhi or the intellect. The intellect says or guides you what is right and what is wrong. So today you come for Gita class. Are you following your manas or your buddhi? What are you following? You're following your buddhi, because if you follow your manas, you won't be here, you'll be in coffee bean. So what is right, you follow. That is your buddhi. Manas is what I like, I do. What brings me happiness, pleasure, I do. Okay. If there's some problem there, I have to put in some effort, then I'm not going to do it. So the second is buddhi. The third is called ahamkar. Ahamkar means identification with this body or ego, we can say. Okay. So that also to a point influences our actions also. And the fourth is called chitta or the memory bank. So in the past, what experiences you had also influences your present action also. If you went somewhere and you had a pleasant experience at a restaurant, example, it will influence your current decision where you want to go and eat now again. So this chitta or memory bank also influences all our actions. If you met a person in the past and there were very unpleasant experiences, now again you see that person, those unpleasant experiences will be recalled in your mind. That is the function of chitta, memory bank. So that means what Krishna is saying, sattva, your state of your mind, which includes manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, will ayam purusha, this person who lacks scriptural knowledge, will guide his shraddha, his faith. What is the composition of your mind? What is the nature of your mind? Will be will determine your faith, whether it is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. So Krishna here says, Saha eva, that verily is your faith. So now, what is the nature of your faith? It depends on the nature of your mind. If your mind is sattvic, your faith is sattvic. Your mind is rajasic, your faith is rajasic, and so forth. Okay. So now the question here is that what exactly is sattvic faith? What is rajasic faith? What is tamasic faith? This is what Krishna will start speaking about in verse 4 onwards. So, first of all, in verse 4, he says, the sattvika janaha, the people who are sattvic, their nature is sattvic, their mental composition is sattvic. Who will they worship? He says, they worship the devans. Who are the devans? The devans here is mentioned in plural. So it means all the what we call who are classified as the devas. Now, according to Shankaracharya, he says the devas fall into 5 categories. Number 1 category is Vishnu. In this category of Vishnu also includes Rama, worship of Krishna, etc. The second category is called worship of Shiva. Okay, so all that category of Shiva means the Rudras, etc., all fall under the worship of Shiva. Third is worship of Ganesha, all forms of Ganesha. Fourth is worship of Durga or different forms of the mother goddess. Okay, Durga, Parvati, and all that. And fifth is worship of Surya. Under worship of Surya also fall all the various deities who are connected to the sun. So these are considered generally the five, what we call the devas to be worshipped. We can choose anyone that we want. Okay. And of course, you have Hanuman and Rama, and all these also fall under the same category. So Sattvic people worship the devas. Okay. Krishna, Shiva, Rama, the Devis, etc., Hanuman and Ganesha and all that. What about Rajasic people? Rajasic people are those who worship the two categories mentioned here in the second line of the Sanskrit verse, Yakshas and what we call Yakshas and Rakshas. Okay, you see the word Yakshas and Rakshas is combined together. Okay, what are Yakshas? Yakshas are said to be those kind of what we call elements that some of them are malicious, some are kind. Okay, they are spirits that guard the nature. So they are for water, they are one type of yakshas. For trees, there's one type of yakshas. For forest, there's one type of yakshas. And the most famous of all the yakshas, or the king of the yakshas, is no other than Kubera. So you all might have heard of Kubera. He's the king of all the yakshas, and he's also the lord of wealth. Now, he is described in the scriptures as having, some scriptures describe him as having 3 legs, 8 teeth, 1 eye, and he's adorned with jewels. So Kubera is associated with wealth. That means Rajasic people, they want to worship Kubera because they are interested in wealth. So they will look for all these different type of yakshas or spirits who can give them, who can answer their prayers for different kinds of material benefits. So that's all they're interested in. Whatever there is material benefits, they will worship. Okay. Now there's one very popular story about Kubera. It seems in the scriptures, he loaned money to Lord Venkateshwara. So where is Venkateshwara? In India, where is the very famous temple? Tirupati. So Kubera is said to have loaned money to Venkateshwara for the purpose of Venkateshwara wanted to marry Padmavati. So he didn't have money. Kubera loaned him the money and he married Padmavati. So the tradition is, devotees of Venkateshwara, they go to Tirupati to donate money so the Lord can pay back his loan to Kubera. But these are all mythical stories, okay? What is there and all, but these are all the myths and stories about Kubera. Okay, there are many, many stories. So this is one type of spirits that Rajasic people like to worship. For what purpose? For material purposes. Okay. The second type of uh, what Rajasic people like to worship are called the Rakshasas. Rakshasas are the demoniacal people. They have supernatural powers. They are generally considered evil and they do destructive things. So why do Rajasic people worship them? Because they want to get supernatural powers, right? All kinds of supernatural powers they want. So they worship all these kind of demons, okay, to acquire more wealth, more power, and they have all these kind of magic tricks that they can do to impress others in order to get more money from people also. Okay. And Krishna says, Tamasic people, the Tamasic Janaha, Tamasic minded people, what do they worship? Ganams, the word Ganams here, if you see in the third line of the Sanskrit text, there is Pretan, Bhuta, Ganans. So you have to break it up into 3 words. Okay. Ganams means the classes. The classes of Pretan and Bhuta are ghosts and spirits. So these people worship all these ghosts and spirits. Now, who are all these ghosts and spirits? It is said in our scriptures that these ghosts and spirits died a very unfortunate death, right? Either in an accident or committed suicide or they were murdered by somebody. So their spirits are still roaming around. They're not happy. Okay, they are very destructive natures. So tamasic people worship such ghosts and spirits for the purpose of harming others also. Okay, there are those kind of. So now from this, which category of what you worship will determine whether we are sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic also. That is mentioned in verse 4. Now, in verse 5, Krishna also mentions verse 5 and 6. What is the attitude also? So, attitude also is very important. And the attitude of two things. One is how we worship, second is how we keep our austerities. So, first of all, Krishna says in verse 5, Ye janaha, those persons, okay, who are samyuktaha. Samyuktaha means they are totally possessed or they are overcome by what? When they pray, these people must make sure that it is dambaha. Dambaha means there must be a lot of ostentation. They want to show off in their prayers and their austerities. So they will make sure that a lot of different varieties of food are served when they perform rituals. They'll invite all kinds of important people to come and witness that they are doing worship and prayers. They want to do everything on a very grand scale. So they are not interested whether they attain purity of mind or they what you call they are they become closer to God through their prayers. All they are interested is how to impress other people through their prayers. And we've seen people like that doing rituals, doing prayers in a very bombastic way. But what did Krishna tell us about all this when we do prayers? What does he want to be offered? You remember that very famous verse? Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. He never asked for ostentation. Just one leaf, one flower, one fruit is good enough. But these people go beyond that. So they perform prayers with ostentation. So those are also very rajasic or tamasic type of people who do this kind of prayers. And why do they do it? Because of ahamkara, because of ego. They want to impress society. They want to impress people. And then Krishna says they are anvitaha. They are absorbed or intoxicated by three things: kama, raga, bala. Because of their intoxication with kama, they have many, many selfish desires they want to uh, fulfill. Number one. Raga means attachment to what they have, they want to hold on to it. And bala is because of their power. So they want to show off their power. Now, if you look at back at the scriptures, there are many, many such people like Hiranyakashipu, like Ravan, etc. They do perform prayers, they do rituals, but that's what they follow. They have a lot of ostentation. They want to show off their power, their arrogance, their attachments also. So Krishna says, these people, they tapyante, they undertake tapaha, they do penances, they believe, they do penances with belief. But what type of penances do they do? Ghoram, which are very severe, which they are willing to go to severe lengths to practice all kinds of penances that harm the body. You can see people go to extreme lengths, do extreme fasting, stand on one leg, bury themselves in the sand, do extreme things that hurt the body and harm the body. Now, we have to be very careful about this because it does not mean that the more what we call extreme austerities I keep, that God will be more happy and He'll give me more. God never wants to see us suffer. We think by our ignorance that the more extreme austerities I do, the more happy God is, the more I get back from Him. But Krishna is saying here, they practice ghoram tapaha, severe, severe austerities. They undertake all kinds of painful rituals and austerities. And why? And then he tells us what is the problem with all these severe austerities. They are ashastra vihitam. Now, this word ashastra vihitam. Shastra means scriptures. Ashastra means those which go against the injunctions of the scriptures. The scriptures never prescribe us to perform severe austerities. See, if you have gastric problems and you fast, what are you doing? You're hurting and killing your own body just to maintain the fast. So fasting is good. We should practice fasting, but if it harms the body, the scriptures don't advise such kind of fasting or any kind of severe austerities that hurt the body should not be practiced. So, a Shastra Vihitam, they do all these kind of practices that go against the ordinance of the scriptures. And then in the next verse, Krishna explains more about this practice of severe austerities. What does he say? He says, Karshayanta, they torment and they torture. They torture what? Sarirashtam Bhuta. The Bhuta means the five elements that make up this body, this Sarira. They torture these five elements. So they're bringing pain and they're bringing all kinds of problems to this body. They end up suffering. The body ends up suffering. It weakens the body. And once our body is weakened, how are we going to carry on doing more rituals? How are we going to go on doing other duties and all that? So never ever engage in any type of rituals or austerities that harm or torture the body. It is not advisable at all. Okay. And we've seen many of this being done. Okay. And Krishna is saying they are against the ordinance of the scriptures. And he says, not only do they torture this body, but he says, you are also torturing me, mam evacha. So how are we torturing the Lord? Our question is, I understand by doing severe austerities, I torture the body, but now God is saying, you are even torturing me also. Why? Because anta sharira rastam. Sharira in this body, anta, inside this body, Lord says, I also reside. I am residing in your own body. So when you torture this body, you're also indirectly torturing me also. You're torturing this divinity which is within you. This body is a temple of God. Why are you torturing the body? If you keep fast, you must be feeling happy, you must be feeling closer to God, not by torturing the body. You feel pain by doing austerities, that is not the right austerity. So the Lord says, know that, Vidita, know that. Why do these people perform all these kind of severe austerities? Because they are achetasaha. They are devoid of discrimination. They lack proper thinking and understanding. Why? Because they are driven by their selfish desires and by their greed. So now, these people who perform prayers and they do a lot of ostentation, who keep austerities that torture the body, which category do you think they fall under? Divine or demonic? Divine or demonic? Definitely demoniac. Krishna says here with conviction, he says, Nishchayan, most certainly, most definitely, they are asuric people. They are demoniac people. So never ever should we perform any uh, prayers and ceremonies and do a lot of ostentation, overdo it, serve so much of food, variety of food, invite the press, invite VIPs. All that is not necessary. Simple puja, simple prayers is the best. And whenever we keep austerities, it should never damage, harm, or torture the body. Such austerities are never ever sanctioned by the scriptures. Okay. So he says they are Nishchaya and Asura. They are definitely, most certainly demoniac. Now that brings us to verse number 7. This is where Krishna is going to tell us about the 4 different type of categories that will determine what type of faith we have. Are we sattvic? Are we rajasic? Are we tamasic? Is determined by these 4 categories, we can evaluate ourselves also by these categories. So, what are the categories here? The 4 sadhanas, okay, that we practice. Now, all of us do prayers and rituals. So, that is yajna. We may be doing tapas, we practice austerities, is good. We also do dhanam, we do charity. And what type of food we eat also determines what is the nature of our faith. Is it sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? So let us see what are the 4 sadhanas that Krishna is talking about. He says, first is ahara. Ahara means the type of food we consume. Okay. Second is yajna. Yajna means the type of pujas or prayers we perform, the rituals, etc. The third is tapaha, austerities. Now remember, I told you austerity is not just fasting. Austerity means denying yourself whatever you are addicted to. So if you're addicted to drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, you keep one day aside a week and say, I will not drink any coffee. That is also tapaha. So there, whatever that you're addicted to, you control yourself for that one particular day, that is also called tapaha. And the fourth is dhanam, how we give charity, how we offer charity. So the Lord says here, He says now, hear about all these 4 categories and how they are. All these 4 categories are trivida. They can be divided into 3 categories. So these 4 practices can be divided into sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. So he says now, yakya, dana, tapaha, ahara, listen to the classification of these 4 things. So now in verses 8, 9, and 10, Krishna will tell us what is sattvic food, what is rajasic food, and what is tamasic food. So from that, we know what we are consuming, whether our mind is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. Now, why is food so important to our spiritual growth? Why is food so important to our spiritual growth? So here the Chandogya Upanishad states that from purity of food comes purity of mind. From purity of mind comes constant remembrance of God. When the mind is pure, it constantly thinks of God. And we can make the mind pure depending on the type of food we consume. Purity of food leads to purity of mind. Purity of mind leads to constant remembrance of God. And constant remembrance of God becomes free, one becomes free from all bondage. So it's very important, therefore, that we pay attention to the type of food we eat also. It influences our mind. Like they say, I mean, you all have definitely read that those carnivorous animals, what type of food they eat flesh and meat, etc. And what we call the herbivorous animals, which appear to be calm and peaceful, they take to a diet of leaves and vegetables and fruits also. So from that we can gauge how much food affects our mind. And in the Upanishads, the food is divided, every food has got 3 layers, 3 components. One is the gross layer of food that nourishes our gross body. You know, they said last time, when you have scurvy, okay, your body lacks which vitamin? C. So we take vitamin C, it cures the scurvy from our body. So the gross aspect of oranges, which contains vitamin C, will be affecting our gross body. So that is the first part. But the scriptures say there is also a subtle portion of every food that affects the subtle mind. The gross food affects the gross body. The subtle aspect of the food affects our subtle mind. And there's the third aspect of food, which is called a waste product, which is evicted from our body. So every food contains these 3 components. Everything that we eat affects our body, affects our mind also. Okay. So we have to be very careful. Now, what are sattvic foods here? The Lord mentions here in verse number 8. He says, sattvic foods are vivardhanaha. They specifically contribute to. Now, You don't expect Krishna to give you a list of foods. He'll tell you eat berries or eat apples or eat avocado and all that. He's not going to do that, okay? Because then it becomes a cookery class, okay? So he's going to give us very general guidelines of what is sattvic, what is rajasic, what is tamasic. From there, we have to deduce which food falls under which category. So he says here, sattvic foods are vivardhanaha, are those foods that specifically contribute to what? Ayuhu. Ayuhu means they contribute to a long life. Okay. Sattva, they contribute to firmness of mind, mental strength. 3, balaha, physical strength to carry out our duties. Next, arogya, they give us good health. They keep us free from diseases. And sukham, they give us contentment. When we consume these foods, they don't give us indigestion. They don't give us health problems. Okay, burning sensations when we consume these foods. Priti, delights. So they don't cause any discomfort in our body. Then he says foods that are rasya, succulent, juicy. So now you can understand what type of foods is he talking about. What is that? Succulent and juicy. Fruits and vegetables. They are juicy, they are succulent. Okay. Snigdha, oleaginous, meaning not dry, they contain natural oils. Like what? Nuts, seeds, olive oil, sunflower oil, all these fall under the sattvic food category. Okay. Stiraha, substantial, they provide hydration, nourishment. So again, what are these? Fruit juices, milk, water. Okay. Hridya, they are agreeable or pleasing to our senses, foods that don't have foul smell. Okay, natural foods. He says these are the foods that are sattvika priya. They are liked by sattvic people. So that means basically all the natural oils, olive oil, sunflower oil, fruits, vegetables, foods that don't cause, while we are eating, they don't cause burning sensations, they don't cause indigestion. Those are all sattvic type of foods, healthy foods, okay, that contribute to our health. Now we come to rajasic foods. So, okay, what are rajasic foods? So, first is he says rajasic food is that which is khatu. Khatu means anything that is bitter. Okay, when you eat it, it's very, very bitter. Number one. Amla, which is very sour. Lavana, salty. Usna means hot in terms of temperature when you eat the food that is extremely hot. Okay. Tiksna, pungent, like chilies and spices. Ruksha, it is devoid of natural oils. It's very dry. It doesn't have any natural oils. Next, vidahina is burning like mustard seeds. When you eat, it burns your mouth, it burns your digestive system. So the idea is we should not consume food that is bitter, sour, salty, etc. Now, here, if you really read it, it basically we can't eat any food that we eat, right? Almost every food has got some bitterness, some saltiness, some sourness. But there's one word missing here in the English text, which is in the Sanskrit text. That's why when sometimes we read the English text, see, you read the English text, foods which are bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, burning, okay, almost all our food falls into this category. But one word is missing from here, which is in the Sanskrit text and not in this English text. And that word is called ati. Ati means what? Excessively. So, Rajasic people like to eat food that is excessively bitter, excessively pungent, excessively salty, excessively burning your mouth and burning your digestive system. So, as long as we consume these foods in moderation, it's okay. But if you like all these excessive type of foods, hot, chili, pungent, etc., then that is Rajasic in nature. So, the word ati must be added to this English text, which is missing there. Okay. So that's why there's always a lot of question whenever we come to this verse, they say then what to eat, almost everything we go for. Banana leaf, that's spicy. Nasi kanda is spicy. Mee goreng is spicy. Almost everything you look at Malaysian food has got spicy curries and all that. But no, understand the word is excessively. And if you think about Rajasic people, they like to live life excessively. Everything they want in excess. Money in excess, power in excess, everything in excess. So, what else is it about this food? He says these Rajasic foods, they produce dukkha, pain. During consumption of these foods, there's severe burning of sensation in the mouth, in the digestive system. You can see people sitting down eating this banana leaf or nasi kanda, they'll be literally having tears rolling down their face, but they enjoy this food. And they'll go back again and again and again and eat this food because it creates all these burning sensations. So, dukkha, they create burning sensation in the mouth, tears in your eyes, they burn up your digestive system, that is dukkha. Second, shoka. Shoka means sorrow. After the consumption of this food, there is heartburn, there is bloating. So even after, while you're eating already, is already burning your system. After you finish eating, also it continues to cause digestive problems. And amaya, diseases. What are the diseases? When you consume excessively spicy, bitter food, gastric ulcers, acidic reflux, and all these kind of problems. So from there we can deduce what are the food. We know actually, in fact, this is what a nutritionist will tell you to avoid all these type of foods because in the long run also they cause all these kinds of problems. So Krishna concludes by saying, Ahara, these are the foods which are ishtaha, which are dear to Rajasic people. Okay. So excessively type of foods that we eat. Now we come to tamasic foods. What are tamasic foods? So tamasic people are attracted to foods which are yata yaman, which are half cooked, improperly either undercooked or not properly cooked, not suitable for consumption. But tamasic people, they don't care. They just want to eat, they just eat whatever it is. Okay. Gata rasam, food that is lacking in rasa, essence. There is no nourishment in that food. Okay. So again, these are what type of foods in today's environment, fast foods will fall under this category. Consumption of excess consumption of fast foods falls under tamasic category. Next classification, puti. Puti means putrid, food that has become stale or rotten, but there are people who eat it, they don't care. Okay. So rotten. And these are the people also, products which have got expiry dates, food, they don't care, they will buy that because it's cheap. They don't mind consuming that also. So puti. Paurushitam, cooked overnight, not fresh. It's consumed many hours after it has been cooked. Okay. Now, I understand now in today's lifestyle also, we do cook food on Sunday, then we put in containers. This is for Monday, this is for Tuesday, this is for Wednesday. Now, you may ask me, that is tamasic food? Yes, it's tamasic food. But the question is, how often do we do this? The more often you do that, the more tamasic the food you're consuming. Okay. And it affects our thinking. So, yes, we may do it sometime, but if we continuously do it, understand that you are consuming tamasic food. Next classification, uchistam, which is remnant food that has been consumed by others and then is left by others, they partially consume it and you go and eat that remnants of that food. That is also tamasic food. And now the most important point here, how do we classify tamasic food? This word is very important. In the third line of the Sanskrit text, you see the word amedium. Amedium. Amedium means unfit for sacrifice, impure. So, what kind of food do you think it is? Meat. That which we won't put on the altar to offer to the Lord is the food that we should not put into our body because that's where the Lord is residing. So, all meat products, alcohol, drugs, etc., will fall under this category, amedium. Okay, because nowhere he mentions meat, but indirectly, a medium means basically meat products. So in Vedic culture, we go back to Vedic culture. The purpose of preparing and serving food was for three purposes. Whenever we prepare any food in the house, in Vedic culture, they say there are three purposes. One is portion of the food is taken out and offered to Bhagwan on the altar. So whatever we cook, we take out a portion of it and offer it to the Lord on the altar. That's why every Sunday and Tuesday when we do prayers here, whatever food is catered or whatever food comes here, portion of the food is removed, taken out, put on a plate and offered to the Lord. And then that food is mixed back with all the food, so we're consuming prasad. So that is the first uh, purpose of food is offered to Bhagwan. Number two, a portion of the food also must be taken out and offered to other people who are less fortunate than you. Okay, to other people who are hungry, cannot afford food, you give that food. Also, that becomes a dhanam. Or we offer it to animals, to birds or to cows, etc. And the third one is the balanced food that is consumed by us. So every food is divided into three portions. One to offer to Bhagwan, two to offer to the less fortunate people, and three is for our own consumption. So the Lord says here, Bhojanam, food that is described here in verse number 10, is priyam, is dear to tamasic people also. Okay. So here he is described about food. So from here again, we have to use our own imagination, our own understanding, what type of food falls under which category also. So now in the next verses, which we will come back and see next week, verses 11, 12, and 13, he will talk about uh, the different types of worship. So we must not think that just because we are praying that that is correct. There is a sattvic way of doing it, rajasic way of doing it, and a tamasic way of doing it. Okay, we'll come back next week and look at these verses. Okay, and with the prayer. Vasudevasutam devam kansachanuramardhanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadguru. Thank you.